Hi, this is Karl-James Langford on channel 0121975. It's the 29th and the 30th of January 2015, and it's Thursday and Friday. Basically, I'm trying to keep up with my daily logs, but really busy with lots and lots of things at this minute, as I will explain. But what I'm going to do this log today will look at in brief the archaeology sort of sessions of statuary that I've been looking at this week. But on a Thursday, I've been teaching 2 classes. Wasn't as exhausted this week, but I think I've got some kind of nasal thing developing. Anyway, that's life. So those 2 classes have been good, and my students still turn up. That's really good. And I've also decided today as well to promote a new book. There you go. It's called High Hats and Harps by Helen Forder, from Lansford Major, The Life and Times of Lord and Lady Llanover. For those that don't know about Llanover, it's Lady Llanover from Gwent. And if anyone's interested in a copy of the book, they're £11.99, and please let me know. Basically, I'm promoting this book, and if I can make enough sales, I get an old-fashioned little typewriter out of it, so that's really good. Worked on SoundCloud for A Piece for Emma, and I sent her over. It got very emotive, and had to re-record it a couple of times, but that got over. And then on Friday, I had the walk, Lansford Major one. That was good. Lovely weather, sun out, keeping smiles. And then a couple of I had an appointment to go in Cardiff, an interview, and then I had to give interviews myself for this archaeology job, and you know, and it's going really well. People I've interviewed probably up to 8 people for the archaeology job presenting, and I've got at least 3 really good people out of it, so that's really good, and I'll be contacting them back. And what else? Yeah, teaching in the evening as well, and with Michelle. Stuart and Cheryl weren't about, nor was Roger, so I was on my lonesome with Michelle, but that was really good. And one thing I would say is Michelle has got 40 chickens, and you all know I like chickens, and look at these eggs, right? She's got that's a normal British egg. Okay, so she's bought me 18 eggs, because I like eggs, but only fresh eggs, free range, not battery, because I don't think it's fair, battery chickens. Here, that's normal egg from a speckledy chicken, a chicken that's got white plumage with little specks on it, brownie specks. And this is from an African chicken. There you go. Notice it's slightly bluey, greeny colour. And I've got other coloured eggs as well. These are all sort of African type chickens, like a whitey creamy egg. Yeah, and there's another one of those blue ones as well. So there you go. So there you go. So she said these were chicken sample eggs. And yeah, and one thing I would say is I'm trying to convince people, if they want to write books, they're really good at supporting you. My Romans in the Vale of Glamorgan supported me through most of last year. So that's really good. So if anyone wants to publish a book, get in contact with me, and hopefully David will get his act in order so we can get in that book. I've got my other Toad book. I'm supposed to be working on another book with somebody else, so that's good. Anyway, so what we're going to do we're going to go on to the statuary, some of the images for that this week. So, and by the way, anyone
Hi folks, this week we've decided to look at male statuary of the world.
Now please, I'll be really appreciative. Right, we're looking at the statue of Chrysos from Kouros. Chrysos was actually not a god, but a normal everyday warrior. And this statuary from the 530s, just above a normal size individual for that time, carved out of stone. It's showing naturally the perfect curves on the body, perfect proportions, and obviously statuary, at least from the 500s BC, is becoming something that is to be cherished, and of proportioned, accurate scales across the world. But there are different sort of ways of portraying human figurery, for important figures, lesser figures, and everyday people wandering through the street. When we're talking about figures of the ancient world and linking in all these figures and statuary to the 7 ancient wonders that I've been doing very recently, as you know, and as I come to explain, that there are many different lists for ancient wonders of the world. The Pillars of Hercules were actually on one of the early lists of 7 ancient wonders. The Pillars of Hercules were believed to have been pillars at the Gibraltar Straits. One pillar was believed to be on the European side, another pillar was believed to have been on the African side. Others believed that the body of Hercules straddled between the 2 continents, but this is just not possible. It would use all the brass, bronze and iron that was available at the time to actually do that, an amazing feat that would have taken smelters hundreds of years to probably create, and it would have been something that just would have not been able to hold up thousands and thousands of tons of metal, something bigger than the Statue of Liberty, something which was colossal. So it was likely to have just been 2 pillars, but obviously people exaggerated in history. 2 Hercules on each of the pillars on either side, but obviously not straddled between the pair, going into the Atlantic Sea from the Mediterranean, was something that was always being written about as far back as 1200 years BC by the ancient Egyptians, who were believed to have circumnavigated Africa, heading from the Red Sea all the way down south, all the way back in through the Gibraltar Straits, the Pillars of Hercules, all the way back through to Egypt again. This is a title page of Sir Francis Bacon's work from 1620, showing the 2 pillars, not shown in the usual straddled figure between the 2. These are the straits themselves. Pillars of Hercules, being forced together by Hercules himself. Now, the figure itself would have been immense, and scale is completely out there, but showing a ship of the late 1400s, early 1500s, going off to the Americas, for example. But obviously this figure is not to have existed, but the pillars, maybe 10-20 meters in height, are believed to have existed on either side, hence being the wonders of the ancient world. And wonders of the ancient world, going into a sea is a wonder in itself, beyond up to the gardens of Hesperides, going all the way through to the mythical land of Atlantis. Other statuary of the world on other lists, much later lists of ancient wonders. This is one of 2 statuary in Afghanistan of the 2 Buddhas, the Bamiyan Buddha statues. Both of them constructed in the 500s, hewn out of the sandstone rock, standing up until the 20th of March 2001. On orders of the Taliban, something occurred to them. This is as it's under reconstruction up to that point. Oh, there it is. This is the greater of the Bamiyan figures as it stood up until that date. On the 21st of March 2001, this figure was blown up alongside the other lesser figure, the Bamiyan statuary. You can see the figure as it was, and on the 22nd of March, well, actually a little bit later because you got tents below, but obviously that crevice as it would have been on the 22nd of March, completely blown up. But on the orders of Muhammad Omar, the Muslim leader of the Afghan Taliban government at the time. Obviously there's no respect being given for Buddhist art either by the Islamic faith. These are the two Bamiyan statues as they were revered in the 1800s. It's believed that by UNESCO, the decision made in 2011, 10 years after the Islamic destruction of these two statues, it said that the lesser statue will be reconstructed and the larger statue will not be reconstructed, to show the slight to which these statues suffered, and to mark in history the evils of religion against religion and the wars that were caused by them. In 100 years' time, we will look back on this period and think one religion destroyed the statues of another religion. Statues that are 1,500 years old. It makes no sense. So one of the statues will be reconstructed. In that case, the other one won't be, as a warning and as a message from the past. This is the lesser of the figures as it stood up until the destruction on the 21st of March 2001. This is as it stood up until that date, and it basically gives us the question, why does this happen? What is the need for this? Story has it is that the UN said to the Islamic leadership of Afghanistan at the time that they would help relieve the famine of the country. But religion comes before feeding a country, and therefore basically the religious needs came first, and thousands of people died. They blew up the statues instead of having the relief that the people needed at the time. There's the destruction, the Islamic destruction of these two statues by the Taliban on the 21st of March 2001. And we can't always say that statues are going to be safe. Archaeology is not going to be safe from religious fanatical faiths. Here's the lesser statue, the one that's going to be reconstructed, and they're going to build a site museum, and it'll warn again of the damages that religion does to our past, and we're not learning from the messages of the past still. The painted statue of the larger statue of the Bamiyan statuary. Moving on to another statue, two coins, the Ellis coins issued late 400s into the 300s, celebrating the statue of Zeus, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the Phidias statue. Phidias, any works by Phidias were subsequently forged in the periods after by the Greeks and the Romans. So to get an original Phidias, and he was a beautiful craftsman at the time, and his work is sought after across the world. It's difficult to work out what's an original and what isn't, but we've only got recordings on coins of what the statue of Zeus looked like. I think it was unlikely it was on the throne. I think it was a freestanding statue of probably about 10 meters in height. Even a statue 5 meters in height in gold would have been a wonder of the ancient world at the Olympia site in southern Greece. Exaggerated reconstruction of the Phidias from 1572 from Philip Gile, statue of Zeus. This is basically tagging on to something that we said the other week. The Diana Artemis statue reconstruction, which is based on the statue at Ephesus from a fountain in Italy, the Villa d'Este from the 1500s, showing that in fact these things around the top half of Artemis are in fact breasts. Others believe they're actually oxen's testicles hung around her neck because she was a god of fertility and hunting. But that's going on from the previous one, obviously female statuary, not male. Again, statuary is to be found in the seas throughout the Mediterranean, going back to one of the previous images, the statue of Zeus, the Phidias of Zeus from the the 400s, 430s, around there. It's believed that the statue of Zeus at Olympia may have been taken away by Nero, taken to Rome in the 60s AD, maybe up to about 68 AD. Nero was in a number of the games in Rome, and a statue was taken to Rome. As Rome started to collapse, some in the 400s up to about 410, most of the great arts were taken to the new Byzantium city, or Constantinople, and may have been lost at sea. These great statues at the islands, Easter Island, renowned around the world. They're not ancient in that form. They date probably to about 800 years ago. Basically, the map showing you the great number of statuary at Easter Island, and obviously we know of over 870 statues still standing, but hundreds and hundreds were thrown into the sea, buried in the bog-like conditions of the landscape, and some left on the side of the mountains, never completely carved. Mysteries of why they were constructed we don't know. But reconstructing archaeology is fraught by the fact that some of these have been reconstructed, placed back onto their original positions, taking away the very message that up to a time, maybe in about the 1600s, the people had lost the ability to feed themselves, because the population had exceeded 15,000 from the population 1,000 years ago of about with a very small number, because most of the island was reoccupied by Polynesian people. There probably is little native population, could not support them. It's unlikely that there was a great number of trees on the island anyway. It's believed that most of the trees that did exist in the island were cut down, probably not for the construction of the statues, but used as fuel as well. But then again, that land was used extensively for agriculture, and all the rich nutrients of the soil being washed into the sea, leading to cataclysmic disaster by about at least the 1600s. Height of these statues, you're talking about 15 meters plus some of the length of these statues, colossal, placed into huge pits in the ground. Yes, we'll go on. Are they images of males or females? We don't know. There you go. Those that have seen my lectures will know that I like to spice them up. This is to give you an idea of the scale of the statuary, colossal, and it's obviously more below the surface. Some of these are much taller than this, and this is an excavation. Excavations have undoubtedly concentrated on the statues more than anything, but we're now starting to look at settlement sites as well. Some of these statues are actually decorated at the rear of the statues, which is quite phenomenal. We're actually starting to find this detail. As somebody said, oh, that looks very Pictish. Well, yes, we don't think the Picts never ever got to Easter Island, but around the world, this sort of post-processionalist determinism archaeology, where people would determine what they would stylize on the statues in complete isolation from other parts of the world, so it's not diffused from one area but determined in location. Ooh, an Olmec baby. Make up your own mind what this looks like. It's not statuary, it's from the 400 years BC, so in that range of statuary around the world. But the Olmec culture, the Zapotec, the Toltec, going into the Maya and Aztec cultures in Central America, and obviously the Inca cultures as well in South America, building great statuary. I've only got this example, but what do you think about this statue? Description is that it's a baby Olmec, terracotta, large, bigger than life-like figure. I don't think it's a baby at all. I think it's more true to life than we believe, but make up your own mind. Okay, statuary. This is a petroglyph. Not really statuary at all, but I thought I'd throw this in for Nazca people 1,300 years ago, and obviously Nazca line statuary carved into the soils, the volcanic soils around there. Terracotta army. I'm going to look at the terracotta army in the near future, up to 5,000 figures, human figures and horses. Very interesting thing to look at. Future expedition, but obviously figurine to look at as well, or in terracotta. One interesting thing, one big question about the ancient wonders. The early list of ancient wonders, we don't see any mention of statuary from Egypt in the early list of the ancient wonders, even though the pyramids are mentioned by Herodotus, is mentioned by Philo in the 200s, is mentioned by Antipater of Sidon, I forgot the name, in the 100 years BC, but the statuary in Egypt isn't mentioned, being that there are thousands of statues in Egypt, and the great Memnons themselves looked at in earlier classes. They're probably not mentioned because there were so many of them, and they were so distant in the mindsets of people understanding them, but the pyramids weren't, because they're on people's doorsteps, people that probably understand them at the time of Herodotus and later, that they decided not to put them in the ancient lists. Obviously, too many numbers, too many to mention. But the Egyptians would have been aware. The Greeks would have been aware of these statues, so they would have been in awe of them, but really not writing about them. Pyramids written about. They weren't anti-Egyptian. That's the way it was. The Colossus of Rhodes. We've already mentioned the Colossus of Rhodes in the previous class, but just think about it. It's a completely over-exaggerated image of the Colossus of Rhodes here. If you look at the mast of the ships themselves, this would indicate this Colossus of Rhodes is about 150 metres high. Colossus of Rhodes was probably on one plinth of the harbour of Rhodes itself. Or there may have been two statues of the Colossus of Rhodes, but no more than about 20 metres in height for these statues, made out of brass, not bronze. I'd usually think they were made of bronze, but most people were made of brass, and they were riveted together with iron, left after a battle between the leader of Cyprus and Rhodes in 304. Ptolemy of Egypt helped lifted the siege of Rhodes in the 304, and lots of crappy scrap left behind by the invading armies from Cyprus, who would have probably been Persian-ish backed, I'm not sure. But anyway, lots of stuff left behind. So Charas of Lindos, somewhere in the 290s, decided to use the scrap to build this huge colossal statue, which stood for 54 years and collapsed in an earthquake. It was opened as a site in the 280s BC, well after Herodotus, but mentioned as a great wonder of the ancient world. The great Buddha statue again. Statues to be found in a number of countries around the world, not just seen in Europe. There's me. Hopefully you've enjoyed this brief look at statuary. Come along to my classes every single week on Thursday in the morning at 10 o'clock at Lantworth Major Town Hall, the Hope Baptist Chapel in Bridgend at 2 p.m. So that's 10 o'clock in the morning, Lantworth Major, and 2 p.m. in Bridgend. And my Skype class, which anyone can join at 7:30. If you're on Skype, let me know and you can join the class. And in Barry as well. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Now that we've watched the series of images, thanks for watching this video log. I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.